Okay, now we've come to the last part of carrying out a hypothesis test, which is to do the conclusion. So previously we said that there are two possible ways to come up with the test statistic value or the p-value. The two ways are like listed here, the p-value approach or the critical value approach. Okay, it is always recommended to do the p-value approach versus rather than the critical value approach. So based on what the criteria that we saw earlier on, okay, these are the conclusions that you should be writing if or dependent on the result of your test or the result of the p-value. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the p-value approach now. So for the first one, this is the conclusion you write if your result says that you are going to reject H0. So you need to write the whole statement. Okay, so you have to state that since the p-value, which is what you have found from your calculator, is less than or equals to alpha, now this percentage will depend on the question. Okay, then comma, we reject H0 and conclude that. Now you notice when you reject H0, we will conclude that there is sufficient evidence, okay, at so many percent significance level that, and what you need to write after that is your H1 in context. Okay, so like for example, the previous example that we were doing, that the population mean mass of Singapore men is more than 75 kg. Okay, something like that. So that is what you need to write if you are rejecting H0. However, if you are not rejecting H0, you realize the presentation is almost the same, just that now your p-value, because you do not reject H0, okay, here will be more than alpha, and the next line here will be insufficient evidence. Okay, everything else stays the same. So you make sure that your conclusion is made up of everything that you see here in the table. Okay, so to summarize, these are the steps that you must have for your hypothesis test. So firstly, you need to define your random variable. Okay, you need to define the distribution of x as well as x bar. You need to define your H0 and H1. Then you need to write down the appropriate test statistic as well as the significance level. Okay, then you will need to state the rejection criteria and use your calculator to calculate the p-value. And then last but not least, with the p-value, you come to a conclusion. Okay, so make sure you have everything that is listed here in your presentation when you are carrying out the test. Now, let's take a look at the note here. Just a few things to take note. All right, if you look at the first one, do take note that we only either reject or do not reject H0, but we cannot say that we accept or we reject H1. Okay, so just be careful of that. And also number two, not rejecting H0 is not the same as accepting H0, okay, because there are other errors involved. All right, so that's it for the carrying out the test.